budget deal done. It's Mitchell Talks, the News 9 Sessions with Aaron Brilbeck. So there's the House, and there's the Senate, and there's the governor. And we have a guest from the governor's office today, Mr. Brilbeck, that's going to tell us what's happened in that budget deal.
Right now, we're at $8.3 billion, the first time we've topped $8 billion in spending. We're setting aside some $200 million into a savings account. We're spending another $200+ million on education, which includes across-the-board raises for teachers, across-the-board raises for correction staff, which we know that they work $13.75 an hour is what they get paid to work with some of the most dangerous people in the state of Oklahoma. So they're getting a very well-deserved raise because we're losing them like crazy. That's built into the budget, and state workers are getting an increase too. And the guy who knows a lot more about the dollars and cents of this, somebody who can give us 8.3 billion reasons as to why he's here, Mike Mazzei. Hi, Mike.
Hi, gentlemen. Thanks for having me today.
You are the newly coronated secretary for the brand new position of Secretary of Budget. It's a long title. You've got a business card that's about this long, I imagine. Talk to me a bit about this budget.
We are very excited about the budget strategy for fiscal year 2020. For the first time in Oklahoma history, we're going to save $200 million to make progress towards the governor's goal of getting $2 billion in savings. There's no new taxes, and we have a 5% increase for top priorities of core services in the state, so Oklahoma can be a better place to live, work, and retire.
The fiscal conservative in me says, I'm a little bit leery about the government having so much of my money in a bank account.
Well, Governor Stitt is a businessman who understands risk. And as a financial planner myself in my regular career, we know, Aaron, that there's going to be another recession. There's going to be another downturn in oil and gas. And the general standard to be prepared is to have 2 to 3 months worth of expenses in cash. We're going to get to $1.1 billion, but that isn't even a full 2 months of expenses in cash. So everybody always wants to spend money when it's available, but a prudent businessman, a prudent governor, a prudent state gets some money in savings. So the next time around, we won't really have to deal with awful 15, 20, 25% cuts to core services.
Speaking of Representative Dunnington and the Democrats, they were not happy about the savings. I mean, it's been very vocal, going, we had years and years of cuts. We need to spend this money now, restoring core services. Your response?
We are putting $460 million of money into core services for the people of Oklahoma. Teachers are getting a pay raise. Department of Correction officers are getting a $2 an hour, 14% pay raise. Schools are getting more money through the funding formula, $74 million for local schools to direct as they wish. So there is very significant amount of dollars that are not only going towards core priorities, Scott, but it's going to be the highest dollar amount most agencies have ever received in state history.
Let's talk a bit about that education funding. $203 million increase for public education, $157 million for common education. That's going to pay for average $1,220 raises for teachers on top of the average $6,100 they got last year, plus $74.3 million. I found this one interesting. A lot of the problem that we had with the House and the Senate and their different plans was the House and the governor wanted to see across-the-board raises for teachers, which they got. The Senate wanted to give raises only to the lowest paid teachers and then more money into the funding formula for districts to make that decision as far as whether teachers get more money, whether it goes towards computers, whether it goes towards incentives to bring teachers in. The compromise was across-the-board raises for teachers plus $74.3 million, is that it? $74.3 million to go into the funding formula for those incentives. Talk to me a bit about that compromise.
I think it was a really great compromise at the end of the day. The governor understood that the leadership of the Senate wanted local districts and local superintendents to be able to direct more of the money as they see fit, whether it was to reduce class sizes, whether it was to get more resources into the classroom, whether it was to pay teachers even more than some of the averages. So the compromise allowed us to achieve one of the governor's top priorities, which is we wanted Oklahoma teachers to be the top #1 salaries in the region, and the Senate, along with the governor and the House, wanted more money for local school districts for the classroom. So we really are pleased with the compromise, and it shows that when you're working together as a team and you have a good vision overall, you can get something really great done for the people of Oklahoma.
I know this sparked a bit of cognitive dissonance between the House, the Senate, and the governor, because Republicans traditionally want more local control, and the Senate plan would give more local control to school districts. But at the same time, the concern from the governor and the House was that we don't want to give this money over to school districts with no control because we want to spend on teachers. We don't want to spend on other things that shouldn't be spent on. So this way it's earmarked specifically for teachers plus an additional amount that they can use for themselves to try to draw more teachers, right?
Yeah, it's really a great compromise. The House and the Senate and the governor all pretty much wanted to get to the same place. It was just really more of a discussion and debate of the implementation. This particular compromise allows 49,000 teachers to get on average a $1,220 pay raise, which is approximately $59 million. And then, as you said, Aaron, there's another $74 million for local schools, school boards, superintendents to direct as they see fit.
So on the weekends, the wife and kids and I, we like to get together. We'll grab a bunch of suntan lotion, we'll grab some lounge chairs, and we'll go over to the local pothole. We'll fill it up with water. We'll just sit around the pothole because the potholes are so big and so deep in a lot of our roads. Found this pretty interesting. You're going to be restoring, fully funding the Department of Transportation's 8-year plan for roads and bridges, which hasn't been fully funded in forever and a day, and also restoring $30 million in funding for county road projects. Talk to me a bit about the importance of that.
I'm so glad you brought that up. For the first time in Oklahoma history, we're going to have full funding for the Department of Transportation's construction work program. We're also going to have restored funding for the County Improvement Road Bridge program, so they will now be on target for their 5-year plan. Combined, you have a total of $725 million going towards state and county roads and bridges. Within a few short months, sometime later this year, Oklahoma is going to be ranked top 10 in the country for the smallest or lowest number of structurally deficient bridges. It's a great win for the people of Oklahoma.
And I talked with the governor about this earlier this week. The governor is like a chess player. He's always thinking 15 steps ahead kind of a thing. And what he's thinking about the roads, yeah, great, it's good for us because we're not hitting these deep potholes anymore, not getting flat tires and cracking ribs every time we drive to work. But the plus side of it is we're drawing more business, more commerce to the state of Oklahoma. We're going to need good roads because as people are making things here in Oklahoma, they need to truck them out of Oklahoma. We can't have the roads in the shape they're in.
The Stitt administration has a comprehensive focus on jobs, jobs, and jobs. Well, if we're putting more money into education, we're properly dealing with our infrastructure needs, and we have good job and commerce economic development programs, such as the $19 million this year that's going into the Quick Action Closing Fund, so we can chase and be super competitive with business opportunities. We're going to see job growth and income growth for the hardworking people of Oklahoma.
Can I ask about that quick closing fund? Enough about the highway between 63rd and Santa Fe in Oklahoma City.
It's like driving on the moon.
That's all right. I got the teeth fixed from that. The question is, Oklahoma policy yesterday.
Call the mayor.
Well, yeah.
That's a city issue.
Hey, David, can we do something about that road right there by Chesapeake? It's just really awful. I'll buy the new tires this weekend and send you the bill. The quick closing, OK Policy put out a piece yesterday, and there's just no transparency in the closing fund. How could you, first off, is that true? Number two, how could you make that more transparent, and how important is it?
That is a great question, and we are working on that. The Stitt administration is committed to a whole new level of transparency, accountability, audits. Right now, the Commerce Department puts out some summaries of the dollars that came into the Quick Action Closing Fund and the dollars that have gone out to successful projects like the GE Research Center here in Oklahoma City, the Macy's Distribution Center back in Owasso. I have personally talked with Brett Kissling, the new director of the Commerce Department, and we're already working on more of an annual report type publication. So there's more information and more education about what's come in, what's gone out, and more specifically, Scott, what we'd really like to see is the number of jobs that have been created, the payroll amount that's been created, and the success of the program, so we have a lot more information for the legislators who helped us fund this and the larger community of the taxpayers of Oklahoma.
I want to talk about some of the things that are missing in this budget. And the Democrats pointed this out, and they're probably right. We're focusing a lot right now on criminal justice reform. Looks like retroactivity is probably going to go into place. According to DOC, that means roughly 500 people who are currently incarcerated won't be incarcerated anymore. Again, according to the DOC, anywhere between 60 to 80% of the folks who are currently housed in DOC have either substance abuse issues or psychological issues or some combination of the two. There's not a whole lot in this budget that cares for them post-release to ensure they're not put back in again.
Well, criminal justice reform has been one of the top priorities for Governor Stitt, and this budget has over $11 million dedicated to new diversion programs, expansion of participants in the drug court programs. We're also funding $1.5 million for the Life-Changing Women in Recovery program, as well as there's a $20 million commitment to the district attorneys, so we get away from this fines and fees problem that's almost creating a debtors-like prison situation for nonviolent offenders. So we're really moving the needle with this budget for criminal justice reform.
But out of an $8.3 billion spending plan, is $11 million enough to handle all the psych needs and the substance abuse needs that we're going to have as more people are being released from prison?
Well, remember, Aaron, that's an $11 million increase over and above what the Department of Mental Health and Substance Abuse gets, which is in the $300 million range. So the programs that have been in place have been fairly successful, and now we're expanding those programs to new record levels.
Going to hit you up on one more that I don't see in here. COLA, cost of living adjustment for retirees. Not in there.
This year there were proposals both in the Senate and the House to look at cost of living adjustments for the pensioners, the retirees of the state of Oklahoma. And what was appropriately decided, we feel, is the compliance with the law called the Pension Legislation Actuarial Analysis Act that says make a proposal in the year that those proposals are made, allow for an actuarial analysis to actually deliver to the decision makers, here's the true cost of the COLA. The law also says once we know the cost, the legislature is supposed to fund it. So this year, we'll get a study on the cost of potential COLAs. Next year, the legislature can look at which pension systems are in a good position to provide the COLAs, or does the legislature want to fund the cost of those COLAs directly?
Well, back to education for just a moment, just so that I understand. If anybody thinks they understand the state funding formula, they're probably not exactly telling you the truth. So for the school districts that are going to be paying for this, I hear so many different things. Are the districts going to get the money for the raises, or are some of them going to have to do the raises out of the existing budget? It seems to be, I'm hearing all kinds of different sides. And I know the budget's just out for 48 hours now, but what do you think about that?
Well, the funding formula is kind of a mind-twisting issue to dive into, but the two main pieces here, of course, are $58 million for direct salary increases right away that's going to impact 49,000 teachers, and there's a reporting mechanism that was part of the compromise that we discussed that will be able to verify that those are happening. The other $74 million, Scott, that is going through the funding formula will literally be up to how the local schools handle it. We hope, and it is our strong belief, that the approximately 1,300 teachers that are at schools that are off the funding formula will also get a pay raise. That will be a decision at the local level, and we are very, very hopeful that the local leaders will also follow through with a pay raise for those teachers.
If you want to see a video, a well-done video about this funding formula, here it is right here. This is magic. Because Aaron doesn't know this, but here's the graphic right there, right?
Right there.
Boom, right there. So you can see that 6-minute video. It's a Mitchell Talks video about it, and you'll be completely, what is this all about?
Numbers are hard.
Numbers are hard. They really are. Here's the other thing I wanted to say about the secretary. I've not heard a lot of squawking. Have you heard a lot of squawking? I mean, Representative Dunnington, who squawks about everything. But the fact is, I've not heard a lot of unhappiness about this budget.
There is a new culture at the Capitol, Scott, positive energy that we haven't seen before. Governor Stitt is extremely grateful for the hard work and collaboration of legislators and the Senate leadership and the House leadership to really provide some new momentum for the state of Oklahoma. And because of this collaboration, there really hasn't been a lot of squawking. Our focus from the very beginning was we obviously wanted the governor's priorities to be addressed, but the House priorities have been addressed. The Senate priorities have been addressed. It's one of the best budget strategies and compromise collaborative agreements I've ever seen, and it's probably the best one in the history of the state of Oklahoma.
Kumbaya.
Well, thanks for watching. By the way, it's not an election year. That's also another good reason for that. Secretary Mazie, thanks very much.
Thanks for having me. We appreciate it.
Mr. Brailbeck, thanks for being here.
My
as soon as
pleasure.
we're off the screen here, I'm going to start working on my Mazie imitation. He's got a voice we can do. We can learn how to do an imitation of him.
Oh, no.
I can't wait.
Sort of like Jack Nicholson meets Tulsa. We'll see how it works.
Oh, dear.
Hey, thanks for watching. See this again at news9.com/yourvotecounts. Follow me on Twitter at Mitchell Talks.